Hey guys, this is James from Diskord. In this part, we are going to look at making an 808, the foundation and cornerstone of any healthy trap track. So, what we're going to use for this is, once again, the fantastic Sonic Academy, what's it called again? Kick 2. So we're going to load one of those, and we are going to start from nothing actually. We're purely looking for the, to begin with at least, we only want to work with the sub control here. So I've just muted those so that we can just kind of deal with just the sub. Okay, so first thing we're going to need to do is we want it to, when you play different pitches on the keyboard, we want it to play a different note. And that's what that button there does. So now, I think I did say in the earlier video, that we were probably going to write in G for this tune. That may change later on, but I'm going to start in G because it's for an 808. So a really important thing about an 808 is that it's sub bass, but it's not just sub bass. Because if it's just sub bass, when you listen on anything smaller than, any smaller speakers, you're not going to hear that sub. So if there's nothing else there apart from a very clean low sub, the track's going to sound really empty when it drops, and it's not going to have the same impact on smaller systems as it does on something with a lot of sub bass. So that's kind of what I'm going to show you how to achieve. So what we're going to do is we are going to work from a sine wave. So the most basic possible explanation of what an 808 sound is. And when I say 808, I don't mean the drum machine really. It's kind of, it's evolved from that. Yeah, it's based on an 808 kick. But, most people don't even use an 808 at all to make their 808 basses. So the most basic explanation of it is that it's a sine wave with a pitch envelope on it. And lo and behold, kick has a sine wave oscillator, and we've got a pitch envelope. So it doesn't want to be quite. See, they've got a really quick pitch envelope on the start of the sound there, and that's what's creating that kind of really kicky sort of sound. We're going to drop that and get rid of that straight away. You hear the difference? Like, there's that real punch on the start there. We don't want that, because this isn't going to be an actual kick drum. This is going to be a bass line, and we've already got our kick. So we want this to complement that. We don't want it to kind of fight with it, So the next thing we can do is, you see here it says pitch 17K. That's showing you all the way up to 17K. We don't need to go nearly that high because we're only using it on the very low end of things. So what we can do is we can come right the way down to the bass here, because we just want a very slight pitch modulation, usually no more than about 1 or 2 semitones. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that at C1, because if it's on C, then we know that whatever note we play on the keyboard is the right note. If I play an F, it's going to be an F because it's tuned correctly. And then we're going to, that's now on C, and we're going to put this up to, let's go D sharp. So when I said no more than, D sharp 1, that's actually more than 1 or 2 semitones. But can you hear that? That's now, it's got a bit of, it's subtle, but it's there. And you can make it longer by moving this along. So what we also need to do is we need to give it a bit more sustain, because at the moment you're not really hearing the tone of the sub. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to drag that out like that, and then the other thing we're going to do with the amplifier envelope is we're going to, so that when the kick plays, this doesn't start straight away, we're going to fade in the attack of the sound. We're going to make it a bit longer here as well, so that, you know, we've got the maximum amount of sustain on it. So it's now nice and long. Okay, so that is okay. I think that's a bit slow now, that pitch envelope. Yeah, that sounds pretty good to me. I might curve that a little bit maybe. Okay, now it's going to be a lot easier to hear what this is actually doing if we add, so sine wave is very, very clean. There's not a lot of harmonics to it, or if any. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn up the harmonics on here and also introduce some more harmonics here. So I'll just turn that down. So that's more like it. Yeah, you see, so it's almost what it's doing is adding like a square wave sort of sound to it, because it's adding that extra harmonic. There's extra harmonics. So, you know, if I start talking about something and you think this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, that's fine, because there's always going to be things that I don't know, that I just learned through accident and experimentation, and you might have learnt it the right way. So you might be sitting there going, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about harmonics. Well, you're not completely wrong, but also I know how to get the sound that I want to get on my track. So that to me is more important sometimes than knowing the theory behind it, because theory doesn't write great tunes. So that sounds pretty good. Okay. So that is the first part of the 808. That sounded pretty good to me. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do some effects to kind of enhance the overtones of that 808. So it's a little bit more distorted. We can actually add some more distortion on here before we do that, to be fair. So we switch to clip because it sounds nice. Turn the mix down a bit, and then just... That sounds pretty good. And you see how much that's adding more harmonics there as well. Like, and we're gonna take out some of that high end later on, because this is a bass line. It doesn't need to have loads of fizzy high end. So the next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you the way that we process 808s. Now again, this isn't gonna be how everyone does it. It's just going to be how we do it. So first, the way we do it is we split the frequencies. So I'm going to add an effect rack first, and then in order to create a rack in here, I'm just going to drag this EQ in there. So there we go. Now we've got the first part of the chain, of the rack, sorry. So all this is going to be one effect, which is the EQ, and that's just to take out all of the top end. So now this is just super clean, warm sub. So that's all that's ever going to be. So, okay, that's that one. And then to create another chain, I'm going to grab another EQ. So let's just grab an EQ, drop that in there. So, and I'm going to label this like low and high. Because what this one's going to be is the distorted, saturated, absolutely smashed to death layer that then we EQ and have quite low in the mix to just add some more bite and buzz to the 808. So what we're going to do is we're going to compress the absolute living death out of it first. So I'm going to do that first with OTT. Now I've got a setting, I've got this OTT saved as the default setting. When I double click multiband dynamics, I get an OTT with the amount at 0. So it's what I was talking about before, like make life easy for yourself. Like, you know, it means you can work harder at the track because you're not working hard at getting things to you know, loading presets and doing all that. So I'm going to absolutely squash the hell out of that. So you hear that just brought out all of that high end and you know, the distorted part of everything. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to use erosion here to add a little bit of noise. I'm just going to introduce a bit of noise with erosion, basically. So I'm going to switch it to wide noise. I'm going to make that pretty wide. Okay, you hear that? That sounds like it's pretty aggressive, but it sounds pretty sick. And once we, you know, incorporate that into the track, into the layer of the 808, it's going to sound awesome. So yeah, obviously that's way too bright and aggressive. But once we work it in, and now I'm going to use a sausage fattener here. Now, if you haven't got a sausage fattener, you can absolutely do this with a saturator. You could probably try it with a limiter, anything that clips stuff, anything that saturates and clips and all that good stuff. So I'm going to give it a load of color on here, and I'm just going to turn the gain right the way up, basically. Then I'm going to turn the volume down because it's going to be super loud. So that sounds pretty nasty, right? So then we're going to take all of the low end out of it. I might make it a little bit smoother though. Okay. I can still kind of hear some of that the 808 in it, so I'm actually going to do it twice. You know, maybe I didn't need to do that, but I've done it now. So now when we add those together, that 808 is going to cut through the track so much. So I'm just going to draw in a really simple pattern here that's pretty much just going to follow what the kick drum does, because that's a really good place to start. So what I may even do is grab the MIDI part from the kick drum, drop that on there. Like I said before, the fourth beat is usually when things kick off. So that's when, the fourth beat of the first bar. So I'm actually going to mute. I'm going to get rid of the first 808, and then I'm going to draw these out a bit. So yeah, that's up quite high. We want this on a G. Yeah, listen to that. That sounds sick. Yeah, that's sounding pretty sick. I think we can probably lose a little bit of the sustain on the amp. So let's go like that. Nice. So now what we would normally do is sidechain that to the kick, but with if we weren't using kick 2 even. But like I say, because we've got that amp, it doesn't start. Hear that? That's got more of an attack. It kind of fades in, so it's not gonna conflict with the kick drum at all. So that sounds pretty awesome, I think. Might give it a bit more noise, you know. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty sick. So, you know, you probably, once you get into the writing of the track, you're going to come back and maybe EQ this a bit better so it cuts through the track again. But that's a pretty heavy sounding 808 if I do say so myself. So in the next part, we are going to start chopping up a vocal to be the main hook of the track. So join us in the next part.
If you like this course, why not head over to sonicacademy.com, where we have hundreds of complete track builds in every genre imaginable, including all the project files and samples. You'll also find tutorials on plugins and synths, mixing and mastering, over 250 tech tips, artist interviews, along with our award-winning plugins, samples and preset packs.